becomes Grandview Road. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I love Prospect. Prospect used to be the highway before they built this. And this used to be, Bruce R. Watkins Highway used to be all houses and neighborhoods. And they demolished it over a long period of time and have kind of split the city in many ways, and have not done the African American community any favors by doing it.
No.
And then to build it as a highway, they made the brilliant move of putting stoplights on the highway, so that it locks up all the time, and so they don't know whether they want a highway or whether they want a street. But either way, they've split up the African American communities, and they built a highway that isn't really a highway. So the compromise kind of doesn't work either way.
I think that's a whole separate show. I want to apologize.
Maybe some people can speak to that.
I'm going to now put in a I'm sorry to Mr. Chrome Tuna, because
We've been neglecting him?
Yeah, well, we've neglected your very worthy comments, but in particular, I misread your politically based comment about those in power and those who are not in power, the franchise versus the disenfranchised. And you wrote, literally, that you were kicked off the ballet when you ran for mayor. And now I understand it means that you were kicked off the ballot.
Ballot.
When you ran for mayor.
Yeah, ballot, ballet, wallet, wallay.
You got to understand, I run.
I dip into my wallet to get my Monet out when I
your Monet. Your cash
It
Monet.
leaves a bad impression on people, I tell you what.
I was a fan of modern dance. That's one of the reasons I moved here to Kansas City, is because of the modern dance scene here. And so when I see ballet, I take that seriously. So I would like to tell Chrome Tuna that if he wants to get on the ballet, he should run again for the ballet. I tell you, don't
be prepared to dance on his toes.
Okay. So
except that it's something I never knew until I talked to a retired ballet dancer.
Oh.
The men do not dance on their toes. Only the women do that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, Chrome Tuna comes back with, it's only socialism if we want health care. Somehow it is not socialism when we shovel tax dollars into big corporations that the CEOs have driven into the ground. Then Zen Katz comes back and says, sounds like a dance or a percussion instrument. Carachas.
The Democrats and people on the liberal end of the spectrum have a word for that. They call it corporate socialism.
And Chrome Tuna comes back with ballet, I mean ballot.
Ballot. Yes, I forgot to mention another factor about my friend Bob, which you two should meet in person.
What's that?
He ran for city council in Lawrence.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Right on.
And he ran for city council in Topeka. And it's interesting, and forgive me if you're listening, Bob, if I get this wrong, but when he ran for city council, they looked, there were people who looked for every technicality to count him out. And he lived in Vancouver for a while, so they said, well, he didn't have residency requirements, so he's off the ballot. And the person who came up to defend him and help him out was the arch conservative, who believed that was just a crock of shit, and that Bob should be on the ballot.
I couldn't agree more. That it's obviously a maneuver on a technicality, and
we've seen a lot of that.
We've all gotten into that situation where
you got to watch your P's and Q's. Because sometimes people just figure out ways and loopholes of thwarting democracy.
To follow up on that comment, again, Zen Katz says, did Lorania...
Tiny letters here.
Did Lorania Bobbitt cook those things? They look really icky via the computer screen. I know. They do look like Bobbitt.
What are we talking about?
Bobbits.
Oh!
I'm going to show them again.
That's so
Everybody
like 20 minutes ago.
Yes.
Good
This
Lord.
Vietnam Cafe, and there's two very, very large egg rolls, and I do admit they are translucent and bulky.
They are delicious,
and
especially with sriracha. I love this Googie car wash here.
and could be.
It says, always says old school car wash, and I'm sorry, people, you know, but it's getting dark and the front camera is not picking up things very well. But
This is great. I'm having a ball, man. It's most excellent.
well, I know it's a great way of touristing the city.
Oh.
We're driving down Prospect, which is probably, what would you say, the population here is like 70–80% African American. This was the main north-south thoroughfare for a long time. It was what 71 highway had turned into, and probably in the 1950s, it was a very, you know, a lot of the architecture and the signage years of that era. It was a very happening strip. There were a lot of stores and a lot of neighborhoods that grew off of the strip, and then as is everything in the 1960s, the neighborhoods got older, people were getting older, retiring, dying off, their houses were being taken over by slumlords. It was sold cheap, and, you know, Section 8 and HUD moved in and opened up the doors to a lot of the landlords to come in and destroy the neighborhoods, essentially. And, you know, the accumulation of a lot of people who are poor, this guy's going to cut us off, in the same neighborhoods, in the same spots, crime went up, and unfortunately people who had money, here's somebody walking across the street, jaywalking, left, and leaving behind the dispossessed and the poor and people who desperately wanted to get out but had no means. And unfortunately, you know, a large percentage of those people are African American, which is in the history of this country. Right here, we're coming to what used to be Fairyland Park, and it was the amusement park that was World of Fun before there was a World of Fun. Well, there's no relation between the two. It was run by a family. Recently I talked to this motorcycle club that's in this little building here. It used to be the arcade for Fairyland Park.
Oh.
Back in the end of the era of the park.
Oh.
And they were telling me, oh yeah, we, you know, the motorcycle club is mainly African American. They were like, yeah, we remember that park. We can only come in on a certain day because, you know, it was segregated.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, yeah, you know, people, we're not far removed from that era in history. People should appreciate and understand that we have a long ways to go. We shouldn't pretend that that racism doesn't happen and that, you know, we can turn a blind eye and everybody's happy and satisfied because, you know, what does it say? No justice, no peace. And that's definitely the truth. Spring roll.
Spring roll.
And we're coming to the crossroads area of. My computer decided to go flying. Crossroads area of where Prospect turned into 71 Highway, and this was at one time a district of motels. And I imagine when they were built in the 50s, it overlooked nothing but rolling green hills, but now it's become, for lack of a better, more appropriate term, the hood. An area full of liquor stores, prostitution,
It's
drugs.
socially depressing.
Although
We're going to go down that first street. See where that vehicle's turning?
that becomes Grandview Road.
That's Grandview Road.
Although the what is it? The 3-acre hotel. I love that building. It's got the Googie and the mid-century modern stuff, and I love mid-century modern.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to recap what we've been talking about. We've been talking about public art in the form of structures and sculptures. And we've been talking about the largest man-made structure in the world until Kennedy Space Center was built. The Vehicle Assembly Building, and that would be the old Ritchie Tower, the old television tower where Channel 19 is located and all. Mind this massive hole. That is not a hole. That is a tank trap.
You need to talk to your buddy.
So, it's all on the list. We've also been talking about arts districts, arts happenings, and art events. So first Friday, I'd like everybody to be reminded, is tomorrow night, the 5th of February. Next Friday night, second Friday, is the big art openings of several galleries in Kansas City, Kansas. And you can do any amount of research to find out about those. There is a lot of postings on the internet. The easiest way is to research through YWCA, Kansas City, Kansas. They have the agenda. On third Friday,
I need to know for my blog.
Oh, absolutely. On third Fridays, this is not the season where it has begun yet, but in 2 more months will be the open season for third Fridays in Columbus Park, where we were earlier, down by the Vietnamese restaurant. So I would like to urge everybody watching and listening to go to third Fridays as well, down in Columbus Park. Coincidentally, third Fridays is also where there's art openings downtown at the Urban Culture Project, which is in the deepest, darkest downtown, down by where we were earlier also, on Main at Petticoat Lane. That would be the coordinates of Main and 12th Street, basically.
Urban Culture Project is part of.
Urban Culture Project is part of the Charlotte Street Fund.
Foundation.
Oh, thank you. Foundation, which is powered by the fund. And that is our most successful example of artists improving themselves through cooperative endeavors. Although the first and the greatest example of that was the Artists Coalition. Kansas City Artists Coalition was formerly the world's largest artist organization.
You may or may not be able to speak to this, but I do have a question about Charlotte Street.
Sure.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
When you talk about the fund, what is that fund?
The fund?
And I'm completely unfamiliar with Charlotte Street.
Oh my gosh, I can
say, and I'll say this with the qualification. I talked to the guy who ran it. I got an interview of him.
We're going the back way, right? By the way, we're going the back way on Old Grandview Road. We call it the back way. It's over hill and dale and ravine.
Oh, I love driving this way. I didn't know exactly. But I found him to be a little bit, maybe it was the timing, but I found him to be a little bit aloof, and sometimes artists can project that image, and we'll get into that too. They project that image of looking down their noses at the world, like I'm better than you.
Oh, sure. Oh my gosh, that's one of the main traits. Anyway,
but I'm not. I qualify that because I write from position, and I don't really write. I don't have the qualifications or the stripes to do the blog justice as far as writing and art critique and criticism. But I write from this little tiny blog that he's probably never ever heard of in his life, and why should I bother to talk to you? And it's called Swoboda KC. And, so I don't necessarily hold it against him. I don't hold any grudges. I just kind of, my personal makeup in life is I kind of girdle, I don't know what the word is, I kind of cringe when people hit me with what I perceive as that attitude of
it's judgmental. It's superior. It's
superiority, I guess.
Yeah, and its worst form is an elitism.